Myles Brennan, Jacoby Stevens met with the media today. This was Myles Brennan's first media availability as LSU's starting quarterback, like with the full media. Now, it was via Zoom, so it's a little odd. But all in all, really good to hear Brennan and good to see him in some of the practice video that's been released by LSU of the goings-on early here at camp for LSU and for Myles Brennan running the offense. And Brennan talked about a lot today, and he started by underscoring something that has been a big point that I've tried to stress in every interview I've done about this team outside of Baton Rouge, which is the value of Steve Ensminger to Myles Brennan in this offense this year.
It helps a lot. I mean, he's been here since day one with me. And like I've said before, it's really nice because he's played the position and he's played it here. So when he gives advice and when he's coaching us, like it's coming from a firsthand guy who's been through it. He's been through it here. And so just to be able to take that from him and run with it has been really helpful. And being here, this is now year 4 with him and I together pretty much in the same room has also been really nice.
As much as we're going to talk about Joe Brady, as much as that's going to be a conversation for as long as LSU's playing this year, and I understand why that is part of the conversation, I also think it is disingenuous to minimize the impact of Steve Ensminger because he is still the offensive coordinator. He is still the guy at the top of the pyramid delegating all of these responsibilities, and he was still the guy who called that historic offense a year ago. I'm not trying to minimize Joe Brady in any way. He was a very valuable piece to LSU in a moment in time, but I also believe that in time we will learn the greater asset clearly was Joe Burrow, who had that kind of season. As for this offense, Myles Brennan also said he's in a really good place with his understanding of it.
Yeah, I mean, I feel really, really, really comfortable with the whole playbook. And I know that sounds crazy. But, I mean, this playbook reminds me so much of what I did in high school in terms of, RPOs and having that run pass option and throwing the ball downfield and being able to just really put the ball in our playmakers' hands and let them go make plays is the biggest thing. So I've felt very comfortable up until this point with the playbook and where we stand and where we're headed.
Keep in mind, when Myles Brennan showed up at LSU, he was a guy that was 4 or 5 wide, slinging around at St. Stanislaus, setting every Mississippi high school passing record, and then he comes to LSU, and Matt Canada has him doing the silly tackle shift thing and all the stuff that they were doing there. He went from that as a freshman to Steve Ensminger's offense as a sophomore, then to the Joe Brady Ensminger offense as a junior, and now back to Ensminger. The consistent has been Steve Ensminger, but it's good to hear Myles say we're going back to the things that I was so comfortable doing when I was in high school as a record-setting quarterback, and a lot of things he's been comfortable doing his whole career. Jacoby Stevens, I mentioned, was also part of this media availability today, and the senior safety talked about his impressions in defending against Myles Brennan in this offense.
We have 100% confidence in Myles. We always knew that Myles had a strong arm, and it's cool to see how Myles has kind of grew into this role. I know as a recruit, when we came in together, I was always excited for Myles Brennan because he was breaking a lot of records in Mississippi. And, he came in and, he waited his turn and, he just adjusted to the circumstance. And, he could have been some of those guys that decided to leave and enter the transfer portal, but he stuck it out, and now he's the guy. And like I said, we expect to see big things from Myles.
So another new guy out there is freshman tight end Arik Gilbert. He is the guy that everybody has wanted to see. He's the guy that has gotten a tremendous amount of accolades as the highest-rated tight end in the history of 24/7 sports. And we are going to look, he's the reason came on campus day one, and you see a senior like Jamal Pettigrew gone. So what have been the early impressions? Here's Myles Brennan talking about his freshman tight end.
Yeah, I mean, just having him out there it's crazy. I mean, he runs like a receiver, but, we have obviously he has the body type of a tight end. And I don't think he's missed a single pass since we started camp. He's an outstanding athlete, and we are very, very, very grateful to have him on the roster.
When the 4th-year junior quarterback is low-key, laughing to himself about being grateful to have the freshman tight end on the roster, that's indicative of the style of athlete that they have and the role that they think Arik Gilbert is going to play in this offense. Now, I mentioned Stevens met with the media as well, and Jacoby Stevens was also asked his impressions of Gilbert.
Man, he can run a route like he's a receiver. I mean, and he's 250 pounds. I mean, there's been a couple of times where Arik will run a route and he'll kind of bang into me, and I kind of have to absorb it. But he's a freak of nature, man. Like Coach O wasn't wrong when he called him Megatron, and he really can move like a receiver. But he's like I said, I think he weighs like 250 pounds. So that's 250 pounds, man. That's running like a full force speed directly at you.
The hype train building for Gilbert, and Stevens there called him Arik. So I guess we got to all throughout recruiting, everyone always called him Arik Gilbert, but if it's Arik, it's Arik. A couple more from Jacoby Stevens. A lot of reasons, obviously, to be excited about the offense. We'll talk much more about that. We've been talking a ton about that in the offseason. But obviously, there's the other side of that, which is the defensive side of things, as LSU moves from a 4-3 to a 3-4 under Bo Pelini. Here's Jacoby Stevens talking about what it's been like under Pelini so far.
Right. The difference is the front is going to take care of a lot of stuff. I mean, our front seven is going to take care of a lot of the run game, and I have to adjust, but you have to be able to adjust. I mean, at the next level, you never know what's going to happen. And, it's good to get experience in different defenses, but the difference is for the safeties coming from a one high defense, or mainly into a two high defense. The front in a 4-3, the front just takes care of a lot of things. The front takes care of and knocks out the run. That's really their main responsibility.
Tyler Shelvin, Ed Ogeron said, still around 370 pounds, but trying to get that weight down. Apuaika's there. They'll have to figure out the defensive end spot, but for the most part, LSU loaded on that defensive front and at linebacker as well. And one more from Jacoby Stevens. Of course, one of the storylines we learned this week, or the stories that we heard this week, is with Kary Vincent opting out. LSU's down a veteran in the secondary. So who's replacing Kary Vincent right now and stepping up in the secondary?
Those guys, they've done a great job. They accepted the challenge, and like I said, Cordell's always been a guy that we've depended on. It's nothing new for him. He's the clear starter, and we're expecting a lot from Cordell, and same thing with Darius and the guys that are going to take the role after Kary left. And like I said, like Coach O said, it's always next man up, and we don't blink. So the exception doesn't change.
I mentioned this earlier in the week when we got the Kary Vincent news, how Cordell Flott was going to be the guy on the opposite. And some of you smirked at that and said, no, Cordell Flott's going to be a slot guy. No, Cordell Flott is going to be the boundary corner opposite Derek Stingley. He was the nickel back last year because you had Stingley and Fulton as the boundary corners. I'm not going to say that won't change throughout the course of the year based on how it goes, but listen to what Jacoby Stevens said. Listen to what Ed Ogeron says. Like, they love Cordell Flott. They love his length, his athleticism, his hips. He's going to be the boundary corner opposite Derek Stingley, and that means the door's open for guys like Elias Ricks to be the nickel back and cover the slot receiver. And then the other thing about Vincent was he was versatile, could play safety, but when you see the way they talk about Mo Hampton and Jordan Tolles and Todd Harris is coming back off injury, and you got Jacoby Stevens, Kary Vincent might have been the fifth safety. So in many respects, I understand what Kary Vincent elected to do. He was probably going to fight for reps. I'm not going to say he wasn't going to have a role. He's a senior who played in almost 40 games in his career. I'm not going to say he wasn't going to have a role, but you can look around and go, some dudes out here, man. And in a potentially modified season, it makes a lot of sense. So it's not how big of a loss is, but can you replace it? I think LSU clearly can. And Stevens told you there. Cordell Flott, he's the guy. He's the guy opposite Stingley. So see how it goes. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.